Welcome to Tailoring Talk with your host, Roberto Revilla. I'm a bespoke tailor, menswear designer, and owner of Roberto Revilla London suit, shirt, and shoemakers. Please support the show by subscribing, and it helps so much if you take a few seconds to rate and review if your listening app allows. Today's guest is the founder of Mindset Malta, and his biggest passion is to help frustrated entrepreneurs adapt and pivot, allowing them to have more free time guaranteed. Using his unique ARC method, he's going to help shift your thinking and understand how you can adapt your business whenever needed, regardless of circumstance or uncertainty surrounding you. Tailoring Talkers, let's welcome Ken Attard to the Tailoring Talk Show. Ken, how are you?
I am absolutely wonderful, thank you. I'm really, really excited to be here. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
So I should explain to everyone listening at home, because they'll hear your accent, and you are originally from one of the greatest nations on planet Earth, Canada, but you're actually sitting in Malta right now, where you've lived for over 40 years. And I don't understand how that works, dude, because you don't look that old.
That's a good sign. You're starting well, Roberto.
You have obviously lived the majority of your life in the Mediterranean.
Correct, you are.
How did that happen? Why did your
Well, how did
parents
that?
decide to leave?
Very simply, my parents are both Maltese. They immigrated in the 60s, went to Canada, spent 16 years there. In that 16-year span, obviously, they had me.
Yeah.
I believe my dad decided that he wanted to go back to a country where the sun shines 300 days a year. Although he still loves Canada very much. My parents loved Canada very, very much. It treated them very well as well. And they decided to come back. I was 14 at the time. We used to come back. It's funny because we used to come back for a vacation to Malta every couple of years. And so for me, we were going to Malta. I thought I was going on a perpetual vacation. I thought, it's an everlasting vacation. Well, yet I was somewhat mistaken, because, then schooling came into it and all that. Which was one of the biggest changes if we're talking about adapting. That was a huge change for me, schooling, because I went from, believe it or not, in Canada, I went from an above average student in Canada to an average student in Malta. Academically, when it comes to academics, they're very, very strong, and it was huge adapting. I laugh now because, like I said, I thought I was going on a perpetual holiday, yet it was not. And schooling, like, not only the academic level was higher. I was used to going to a co-ed school. I ended up in an all-boys school. I used to go to school in whatever I wanted to go in. So if I wanted to go in jeans and t-shirt, I went in jeans and t-shirt. I was in a uniform here with a tie and a blazer and all that stuff. So all these changes, and 14, the hormones are running, right? So I was like, where are the girls? There's only boys. What's going on here? And then the academic stuff. Yet I truly love this country. I think it's got a lot going for it. I think we take things for granted. I'm actually, where I am right now, I'm actually on one of the sister islands, Gozo, where I have a small place where I love to get away to, and it's great for inspiration for me.
Yeah.
For those listening, to give them an idea, Malta's about 120 square miles. Gozo's 60 square miles. So it's about half of it. So it's even smaller. And I tend to love the smallness. I can get to anywhere very quickly, really. And it's funny how sometimes people take things for granted. Calling up a friend and saying, "Hey, let's get together for a coffee," and we're down by the sea having a coffee in 15, 20 minutes. I think that's a wonderful thing that we have the capability to do, where a lot of places you're not going to do that. Even Canada, for instance, you're, depending what time of the year it is, you're thinking what the weather's going to be like, and whether it's going to be safe to travel, and they actually talk. It's funny because, like in Toronto, they talk in distances is spoken in how much driving time it takes. So, how far away are you? I'm 2 hour drive away. I'm an hour a drive away. That's how the distance is. Whereas here, you go from one end of the island to the other in half an hour. And and I'm still here. So I obviously love it. So that's sort of like the story as to why I'm here and why I've decided to stay here.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Carolina and I, one of our first holidays together was to Malta, and I think it was during the 2008 European Championships.
Okay.
And so, we rented this little car that looked like a dishwasher with a roof on it. And, every time there was a match, especially when England and Italy were playing, because obviously the Maltese have such a passion for those two nations, I guess, because of whatever colonization went on in history and so on. And it was just the whole island. It was just like a permanent festival. And
absolutely,
so I'd be, driving through Valletta and so on, and Carolina would be sort of sitting, hanging out the roof, and there's all the cheering and whistling and flag waving going on, and wonderful time. And Gozo's beautiful. The waters off Gozo are gorgeous. You have your caves there with you put your hand in and they change color. And
some brilliant diving.
Well, I couldn't swim at the time, so I almost drowned. So that's another fond memory of Malta. But and everyone was just so friendly, and I can't wait to go back. So actually,
let me know when you're here.
Oh yeah, I just realized I've now got a friend in Malta. That's so cool.
Yeah,
you're called Maltese, right? Not Malta, because I call you Maltesers.
No, we're called Maltese.
Oh, okay. Very easy to get that mixed up with chocolate. So, you are, for all intents and purposes, a mindset consultant. You work with entrepreneurs. You're very, very passionate about that. Having been an entrepreneur yourself, you have a family. You are a flesh and blood human being. You bleed like the rest of us. So you know what the struggles are, both physically, mentally, time constraints, and so on, how very often entrepreneurial days can stretch into weeks and months, and you can reach the end of certain periods and feel like you haven't actually achieved anything. The mental health struggles that go with being an entrepreneur for many. So, it's really a privilege to have you on today, because a lot of our listeners are in that space, myself included. One thing one question that you ask is, do people ever wonder how so many entrepreneurs' lives become stagnant with seemingly no way to adapt or pivot their business? When I'm exhausted from just the last 3 years of adapting and pivoting, I feel like I have been constantly swiveling and putting all my weight onto my heel, to the point where my calf muscles are strained and I just can't put one foot in front of the other anymore, because it was firstly pandemic, having to adjust and pivot to that when we got shut down, build a smart casual business, because my normal business is smart suits and shirts. So we built a smart casual business to kind of get us through that. Then we came out of the pandemic. It has been the busiest period ever in my entire career, which I'm very grateful for. But then we started a shoe business. We launched footwear, made to order footwear 2 weeks ago. I thought it was just going to be like a little add-on service to service my existing customers. It has been very positively received, and I am now realizing that it is going to be a completely separate business on its own. It could overtake our main tailoring business one day, but now it's going to need all of the love and care and attention and nurturing and feeding and wiping its butt that a new business needs. And I'm already kind of like full up to here. And then we launched a YouTube channel, and I got the podcast going on, and so on and so forth. And the main two people in my business is just me and my wife. So, as a result, 2 weeks ago, we talked about it in our pre-talk, my gasket blew, and I just had to drop things and kind of walk away for a few days. So, a lot of what you talk about with clients that you take on, I guess the way that they must be feeling, trust me, I have run through the entire gamut of emotions there. when you're working with people, when you're taking on new clients, are they generally mostly in that kind of completely deflated state, or are they at kind of different stages of their journey and dealing with different challenges?
It can vary. It can vary. It really depends whether I'm working with someone who, let's say, someone like yourself, who's somewhat of a seasoned entrepreneur. So they've gone through certain things. They have certain experiences. Sometimes I'm working with someone who's a startup, which is really cool,
Right.
because I could get them earlier,
Right. Yeah.
potentially before they go through. So that can vary. What's really interesting is this, because as I'm listening to you, there's some stuff that is very, very key. So what you're saying is, and it is the norm of almost every entrepreneur, because you talk about, the struggles of an entrepreneur and what they need to go. This really comes back, this is really the essence of the core of one of the main messages that I want to get out there to entrepreneurs and individuals alike, because your personal life has to entwine with your business life. That's going to happen. It's inevitable. I like to focus on entrepreneurs because I believe entrepreneurs are leaders, and if they're building an organization and then they're shifting the way they're thinking, if they're adapting the way they're thinking, then that's going to trickle down right through your whole organization. And now you can have an impact on so many other people. So if I have an impact on you as a leader, by having an impact on you, I'm potentially having an impact on so many more people. What's key here is this, though, and for the most part, most entrepreneurs have been trained like this, is that, someone, and with the greatest of intentions, there's great teachers out there with the greatest of intentions, but someone's going to getting into the entrepreneurial field, and they're getting some advice, and maybe someone's guiding them, and people are telling them, teachers are telling them, listen, you're going to be an entrepreneur, be prepared to have to make sacrifices, be prepared to struggle, be prepared to be stressed, be prepared to understand that you are not going to have any time for anything else but your business. And I am not denying that. I am not denying that there are going to be times when you're going to be having those challenges and those struggles potentially. Yet the thing is this: if you have that belief, that is what's going to happen. And what has happened over the course of period of time is that even taking part in entrepreneurial events, attending events, reading books, I can guarantee you, like most of them will say that listen, be prepared to struggle, be prepared, all this stuff. Now, how many times are you going to hear that? And imagine you're a startup and you're just going into it and you've already decided, okay, this is going to be a struggle. Well, life is a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what it will be, simply because you have that belief. You have that belief for no other reason. Now, this is key, because as an entrepreneur, I like to look at it like this. I like to say, listen, what if your business could be fun? What if it could be impactful? What if it could be flowing and inspirational? What if it could be all those things? What if it could actually be, dare I say, easy? Now, I know there's a bunch of people listening right now and going, Ken, what are you talking about? Easy? No. How can it be easy? See, this is what's really key, though, is because you have this belief, because an entrepreneur has a belief of, the struggle, the sacrifice, and all these things, that now equals, because we've been told that that's how you're going to be successful. So all of these things, struggle, sacrifice, stress, all equals success. It's what we call a complex equivalency, A equals B. So now, as an entrepreneur, and you're going through business, and maybe you started to thrive, maybe things are working out, maybe things are getting a little easier all of a sudden, and you're saying, hey, you know what? I'm earning the money. It's doing the business is becoming a little easier. And now your brain starts to click in and go, wait a second, but that doesn't equal success. this is supposed to be more difficult. And all of a sudden, we start to find ways to potentially self-sabotage, to potentially say, okay, I got to create something else because I really need to be doing more. Like, I'm not doing enough. I don't deserve this success because I'm not doing enough. And I'm going to just use it as an example, and I'm not saying that it's the case, but, I need to start a shoe line, right? Because I'm not doing enough. I got to be doing. Now, I'm not saying it's the case. I'm just an example here.
As an example.
Like, I didn't even know before we spoke that you started a shoe line. This is really cool, right? So, but potentially that could be, you were saying, things are really moving really nicely. It's really smooth. I need to put in something else now if I'm going to be. Now, also, I understand that, you get to a point, it's great to be eager for more. That's fantastic. It's phenomenal. So, yet, it's really interesting in your words. If you listen to your words and what you said as well, is you've already decided that this new line that's going very well is going to involve all of this. The only thing that comes to mind, you mentioned the butt wiping and all this, and
like a screaming baby.
Yeah, right. But it's all the and I put this in quotation marks. It's all the bad things. It's all the struggle things. You're focused on all of those things. Again, it's a matter. This is where the adapting comes, because adapting doesn't necessarily mean, and the pivoting doesn't necessarily mean, completely changing your business. In some cases, that happens. I've done that before. But sometimes the adapting, the pivoting, the shifting is simply where your focus is going. What if now I start to shift my focus towards the things that are really working in my business, that are really good in my business? Like I said, if I can shift it towards thinking and starting to believe that, you know what, this new shoe line, it's fantastic. Like it's great. This could be a lot of fun, because look where we can take this, and look where, and you know what, we're going to have our impact in there, and we're going to have, I'm getting inspiration for new designs and the fun of it. And the process, and this is what's key, is the process is the journey along the way. Now, I know this is a cliche, and some people are saying, Ken, I don't want to hear about this thing about, enjoying the journey again. I don't want, I get it. It's a cliche, yet it's a cliche, yet the fact is, it's the truth.
Yeah.
Like, what is the sense of having a business? When you think about it, what's the sense of having the business that is not joyful, is not giving you joy? Waking up in the morning and not feeling that joy of moving towards something that, you're really enjoying, that you're having fun, that you feel great about, that your creativity comes out, that's just a horrible feeling. And the amazing thing is that the outcome, that's why the journey is so important, because it's not that outcome that is going to give you the joy that you want, because you will get to that outcome. Now, depending the journey that you want to choose, it could take a little longer or not. Not that the time really matters, yet depending on what you're going to choose and how, and getting to that outcome, if you have a really, really strong desire, there's a chance you're going to get to that outcome. Yet, would you like to have just a strong desire and it being a struggle along the way, and then thinking that, okay, when I finally get there, now I'll be happy? Or would it be more interesting? Would it be more just easier? Let me use easy. I love simple and easy. I really do. Wouldn't it be more simple if I said, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy this process. I'm going to enjoy this journey. Yeah, I have my goals. That's wonderful. Have the goals and what you'd like to achieve. That's beautiful. Yet what if I just enjoyed every day, every moment, enjoyed the process, and then I will arrive at wherever. And this is the thing, though. You'll never arrive. You will never arrive, in the sense that it's wonderful to be in a place where you can accept where you are, and at the same time be eager for more. yet accepting where you are right now in the process. Because sometimes, as entrepreneurs, you can be very hard on yourself. We can be very hard on ourselves in the sense that, I really wanted to be at this point right now, but I'm not at this point right now. How come I'm not at this point now? And then we start to loop this and bring it back to, well, I'm just not good enough. Yet when you're enjoying the process and you're enjoying the journey, you start to realize you are good enough. You're exactly where you're meant to be right now. It's okay. You're perfect as you are right now, wherever you are right now. And that's why this journey part is so significant. Because let me ask you this. Let me ask you a question. So if you eliminated time completely, so we don't have to achieve something in a certain amount of time by a certain date or whatever. If you eliminated time completely, would you be alleviating a bunch of that heaviness that sometimes entrepreneurs carry? More than likely, you'd say, yeah, if I had no time frame on, yeah, absolutely. So what if you just let that time thing go? And again, it's practice like anything else. And you let things just unfold perfectly. And this comes back to, trusting yourself, trusting whatever you'd like to call it. Call it the divine, call it God, call it Allah, call it Bob, call it John, call it Jane, call it whatever you'd like. I like to call it the umami self, personally. That's the name I put on it, the umami self. Simply being, I got that. For those who might not realize, it's just the essence of who you truly are. And umami in the food world, for those who might not know, it's when you eat something it tastes so good, it's indescribable. And so, in fact, the definition of umami is the essence of deliciousness. So the umami self, who you truly are, is the essence of the deliciousness of who you truly are. When you tap into that energy, you have everything. And that's where the joy comes from. It's that internal. So that's why it's never the end result that is so important, because the end result will give you temporary gratification. And then you'll go, okay, so what's next? So if you're not enjoying the journey, you're going to get to the outcome that you want and then go, that's it. So I say, let's enjoy the whole thing, the whole process, love it, and know that you can. This is the part that's really, because a lot of entrepreneurs think they have to struggle, think they have to sacrifice, think that they can't have time for anything in their life except their business. And it's just a fallacy. It's just a belief that potentially someone taught you, yet it's not necessarily the truth. And what you don't know yet, you don't know. And this is where we start to create awareness.
Yeah, but it's so true. I think self-talk, to sort of try and sum up everything that you said there in the last few minutes in a nutshell, it does boil down to self-talk. And I can definitely see, we use saying that a lot of what seasoned entrepreneurs do is all learned behavior. And what we then don't do, see, I think a lot of us, we outside of the craft, outside of what we do, we have this habit when we talk to our friends, when we talk to someone we've just met, of really emphasizing how hard everything is, how it's such an uphill journey, and how we're such martyrs and we don't have lives outside of anything else, and we're working 24/7 and so on. We really, really love to get into all of that. We don't actually tell anybody about all the exciting stuff we do. Yet when we're in the moment, when we're with our customers or clients or whatever it is in the craft, we're loving every single second of it, mostly.
Yeah,
and that's where we don't focus. And the reason for me is because, I watched my father, who worked for himself and was always, struggling to keep a roof over our heads and all of that sob story. Keeping my mother in the hospital when my sister was born because he didn't want the extra mouths to feed at that point in time. So it's like, you just stay there as long as you can, because I'm having trouble feeding this fast growing kid that you've left me with here. And for him, it was all about working all the time. And if he wasn't providing for his family, and he was a failure. And so obviously that got ingrained in me, which meant when I went into the working world, I was like a dream come true employee for most people I worked for, because they were like, this kid comes in at 6 a.m. We have to kick him out of the building at night. He comes in on his days off. He doesn't ask for overtime. He just works. He learns every single trade in the business, even though he's only paid to do this one. He's like cheap labor for us. He's brilliant. Can we just not photocopy him and we'd be perfect. And then when I start working for myself, obviously the all the things that I learned from my dad have basically happened. And okay, it's made me great, and it's made me hardworking and diligent and conscientious and all the rest of it. But then you take the other side of that, like take the shoe thing, for example. It's exciting. Like, Ken, it's what we've done, what we've created, this new service that we've built for our customers, the software platform we've worked on with our factory, the things that we can do for people, the value we can give them, the things that they can create, the power that we're putting into their hands is amazing. I can't wait to be able one day to tell the entire world about it once we've got through the initial kind of, with our clients testing phase of it. But it's amazing. And when I'm sat there, knelt down, fitting a client, putting the shoes on their feet, asking them how they're feeling and so on, it's just the best thing in the world, because that's what I love doing. I love serving people. It gives me another way to do that.
And that's it. And that's you see how that's you're just enjoying and salivating in the journey. Yeah. Right? It's the whole setting up. And notice it with the business, like it's the whole setting up of it. It's the whole, getting it to the place where you'd like to get it, but it's that journey, right? So that's what's so important. You're saying it precisely. That's what's so important, is that you're enjoying this moment now. You're not waiting to have everything in place and everything to be perfect the way you want it to, and you've got it out to the world, and now you can enjoy it. No, you're enjoying it now. Yeah. Absolutely. And you mentioned a lot of things, like there's some great work ethics that you have there and wonderful things there. And again, our parents, they taught us the best that they could teach us with what they had. And some of it were absolutely wonderful values. Some of it, that's changing. Right? Because like, and sometimes we give youngsters a hard, we give them a difficult rap sometimes. I hear sometimes how, younger generation, they don't want to work hard, but they want to make, exorbitant amounts of income. They want to let income, but they want to work less. Now, let me ask you this. Is that such a bad concept? It's actually a brilliant concept. Work less, earn more.
Yeah. No, but then we say, and I know that because I say to my clients, like the clients I've worked with for like 20 years, and they're dealing with this new generation that's coming into the workforce now. And it's all about, like literally in the first interview, they want to know about, bonuses, promotion, et cetera, et cetera. When am I going to, and we're just like, you haven't put the graft in. Like, you haven't done all the hard work that we had to do. You guys have it easy.
But
you haven't earned the right to ask that question. And, I'm kind of like, part of me, the grumpy as I get older, right, is like, yeah, right? They haven't done the 6 a.m. starts and, blah, blah, blah. And then part of me is also thinking, God, I'm so jealous because they have more information at their disposal now than we ever did to be able to be smarter about how they live their lives, because create more time for themselves.
Because remember, consciousness is always expanding. So what the younger generation has figured out as well is that they have a life outside of their work as well. And they want to have a life outside of their work as well. And that the business, that wherever they're working, there has to be a culture there that fits in with the lifestyle that they truly want, and your sustainability and all this stuff. And it all has to, there needs to be a culture that fits in. Otherwise, this is why, the Great Resignation and all this stuff, and people, because if cultures are not going to, and it's challenging for, let's say, older leaders to understand this, that they're coming in with a whole different consciousness. And like I said, that it's, they want to work less. It doesn't mean that they don't put in their work, but, a younger generation would say, listen, I've done my work. It's all ready. So what's the harm of me working on something on the side while I'm at work? I've done the work you told me to do. It's done. So there's no harm. And this is where leaders need to understand this, and how to, incorporate all of this as well. So we give them giving them a bad rap, but on the other hand, and then the younger generation, they have some of the challenges that potentially we did not have then. Like I said, consciousness is always expanding. So they're coming in ready. I mean, you don't need to teach a youngster how to use a mobile phone. They're ready, man. Like, they have that consciousness already. I had to learn. They don't need that. So this is why, and so, coming back to as well, why the power of the mind, mindset, and how crucial this is, and how absolutely vital it is for an entrepreneur to really, really understand how mindset. I've come to the conclusion, for me personally, mindset is without a doubt your superpower. Everything you want to achieve, you can achieve. But it's a matter of shifting this, of adapting this, of shifting the way you are potentially presently thinking, making it very simple. Your thoughts create an emotion. And that emotion, again, making it very simple, is either a bad feeling emotion or a good feeling emotion. That emotion is gonna have an effect on the actions and the behaviors that you're going to carry out. So Roberto, we'll use you as an example here. You're feeling, you're thinking like, man, I'm overwhelmed right now. I've got too much going on. I've got this coming from here. I've got this coming from here. I'm feeling totally burnt out. It's creating this, and very simply, this bad feeling emotion. It's not feeling good. What are the actions? What are the behaviors that you're going to adapt? Where you're going to say, listen, I need to shut off. I can't do this. I need to shut down. I can't continue. Or I'm going to take action behaviors. I'm not going to be as efficient, as effective. And that ultimately is going to have an effect on the results and the experiences that you're having. So now all of a sudden, instead of enjoying this new process, this new line, you're feeling like, I can't do this. This is horrible. It's too tiring. I don't feel inspired. My creativity is stifled. And all of a sudden, your results are not what you want. So if you're looking at your life, if you're looking at your business, and there are areas that potentially you're not happy with, results-wise, experience-wise, you've got to come right back to the thinking then. And the thinking, tying that in with the beliefs. What is a belief? A belief is simply a thought that you've thought over and over and over and over. You need to work 80 hours to be successful. You need to work 80 hours to be successful. You need to work 80 hours a week to be successful. You need to struggle to be successful. You need to be sacrificed to be successful. And you hear that over and over. It becomes a belief. That's all it is. So now it's a matter of shifting and switching those beliefs so that you can change the results and the experiences. And there's something that I like to call the triple U syndrome, the U being the letter U. And it's simply this, and when it comes to mindset, and I believe most entrepreneurs suffer from this syndrome. And it's really simple. It's the first U is you underrate mindset. Most entrepreneurs will not give it the due credit that it truly deserves. Like you said, information is readily available. I am not reinventing the wheel. I might be explaining it in a slightly different way that might resonate with some people, and some people maybe not. Yet you've probably, most people listening here have probably heard about mindset at some point. Yet we go, okay, mindset, that's interesting. And they'll dabble in it for a day or two, maybe a week, maybe a month. Yet then as an entrepreneur, getting caught up in all the tasks that need to be done and all the things that are more important that need to be done. And I have to do this, and I have to do this, and I have to have, and we just put it to the wayside because it's underrated. And the second U is that it's underestimated. It's underestimated how powerful it truly is. It's no different than, and that's why I say the information is readily available. You very well said, and nicely said, I can have more information available to me in one day than my grandparents could have had available to them in a lifetime. In one day, right? It's there. So it's no different than, I like to describe it, it's no different than, and some people might be able to relate to this. Have you ever bought a book and then didn't read it and left it there on the shelf? It's there on the shelf. You just got to pull it off the shelf and start reading. Same thing when it comes to mindset. The information is available. You just got to start and be consistent with it. And because it's underrated and it's underestimated, it gets underutilized.
Yeah.
It's underutilized. Now, I can let you off the hook. I can let listeners off the hook because the only reason that's happening, again, is just bringing it back to beliefs. You still do not have a strong enough belief that it has that much of an effect, that it is affecting every single result and experience you're having in your business, in your life, in your relationships, in your wealth, in your health. It is key. So the minute you decide, okay, I want to do this, I really want to step into mindset and start to understand it. And it's not rocket science. Because if it was rocket science, I would not be the one sitting here talking to you about it. I promise you. It's not as, again, it's another thing, people think that it's something really difficult, it's really out there. It's not. It's a matter of, again, it's shifting from triple U syndrome into triple S movement, being that you decide to sign up and say, you know what, I really want to sign up and start to learn about mindset. You learn how to sync up. So you learn how to sink into that umami self I mentioned, that energy that is so much more power, where all your power lies. And then just watch yourself shine as you start to do that.
Yeah.
But this is what's so key, is that people just underrate it, put it to the wayside. And again, as an entrepreneur, I can understand, there's a gazillion things you think you need to do. But that's another thing that you've been taught, that you need to be taking action all the time, that you got to be going full speed ahead all the time. And you can, again, books, seminars, all this, how many times do we hear you need to be taking action? You need to be taking massive action, because if you're not taking massive action, well, I'm going to scare the shit out of you now and say, you know what? If you're not taking massive action, you got Joe across the road. He's taking massive action and he's going to take a piece of the pie away from you. But that all comes from lack. That's a lack mindset, because you think that there's this proverbial pie of abundance that is limited. But if you have a proverbial pie of abundance and you take a slice of abundance away from a pie of abundance, what are you left with? You're left with abundance. There's more than enough for everybody. No one can take anything away from you. So it's shifting from lack to abundance. And I'm not saying not to take action. Absolutely. Yet what I've discovered over the years is that there is a significant difference between taking action and taking inspired action. Inspired action, it's joyful, it's flowing, it's efficient.
It's
you get
impactful.
It's impactful, and it's so much more efficient. Yet, to do that, to take inspired action, one of the first things that you have to do and this freaks entrepreneurs out is stop. Ken, stop. What are you talking about? How can I stop? If I stop, I'm going to lose out. I'm going to miss. But let me ask you this, though. Stopping in of itself is an action. So you actually are taking action. You're taking the action of stopping. And why do you need to stop? Because you've been going so fast. You've been thinking not just going and going and going so fast, you've left no room to receive inspiration, to receive creativity, to receive solutions. This is why so many individuals, entrepreneurs, get that creativity or get that solution all of a sudden when they were having a shower. Because they were having a shower and they actually slowed themselves down enough, and boom, the solution came. Because if your brainwaves are just going, you're leaving no space. Where's the beauty in music? Beauty in music is in the space between the notes. It's the same thing. We have to allow space, slow our brainwaves down enough where we can actually receive that inspiration, because it's all around us. Receive those ideas. And this is truly, really, really significant, because then you start to learn you don't need to chase everything. You can actually start to draw it to you. And this is where it becomes easier. This is why you start to have more time for different things, because it becomes flowing. And it's not a continuous chase.
Yeah. It's amazing, because when I think back to 2022, we had our best year ever, but I did more things last year outside of the business. Everything was exactly that. It was free flowing. And for the most part, I was enjoying it more than I ever have done before. And I wasn't aiming to have a best year. It just happened.
Yeah.
Then we had a 2-week break. And I think this is the entrepreneur trap, right? You have a mindset shift and you do all these new wonderful things and you say no to stuff, and you know what I mean? And then you have a 2-week break over Christmas. You come back to this country, got derailed for another 2 or 3 weeks because of train strikes and so on. So the country didn't move around. So that kind of jerked my diary around. And immediately, this is the problem. It's the elasticity that humans have, which sometimes is a great thing and often is a bad thing. It's a great thing because we have this ability to bounce back from adversity. It's a bad thing because what it does is it undoes a lot of hard work that we do. And I had old entrepreneur mentality creep in, and it was like, things are bad. You have to protect yourself, protect the business, protect your family. You need to go back to doing all the basics again. And at no point at the beginning of this year did I stop to think, hang on a second, but I didn't do any of those basics for most of last year, and we had a whale of a time. Those basics, and that's brilliant. Put me back in the misery corner again.
But again, it's where you shift. It's where you take your focus, right?
But it's all so your mindset, your focus. Yeah.
Yeah, it's where you're going to take your focus. So again, it's a matter of looking at saying, okay, so what's really working here? Let me focus on what's really working here, and let's see more of that. I had a really interesting, talking about this focus about a year and a half ago, probably. They were doing a new road project here, and every time there's a big road project here, and because it's such a small island, right? So if we have to uproot a number of trees or something like that, it becomes a big thing here, because we don't have a lot of open spaces, and so there was some protests about because we don't have enough trees and all this, and I respect that. It's not about that, but when that happened, and I happened to hear about it, what happened to me was this. It was really cool. I started to see trees where I never used to see them. I was going, hey, wait a second, there's trees here. I'm driving along and going, hey, there are trees over here. I said, what a great metaphor for life, in the sense that, so many people go through their whole life looking at where there are no trees. Whereas if you just shift it a bit and say, let me look where the trees are. So same thing in your business. And let me look at what's working and let's build upon that. I'm not saying not to look at something that maybe isn't working as well. Yet the thing is this, when the mind is focused on the things that are working, then what happens is all of the other stuff that's not working as well as you'd like, that begins to unfold as well and starts to shift as well, because that's where you're focused on things that are working. Yet if it's no different than a person who complains. So you have these people who are constantly complaining. And, you know, the minute they get rid of one piece of crap, they find another piece of crap to complain about, because that's where their focus is. That's where their frequency is. That's what they're aligned with. So the minute you begin to shift your frequency, shift your focus, then everything has to align with that. So if I'm aligning with things that work and what's working well in my business, now all of a sudden I'm meeting people who are aligned with that. I'm meeting opportunities that are aligned with that, circumstances, situations, and you know, it's no different than, so essentially what you are emitting, you are going to receive back. It really boils down to that. Now, does it take some time to, you know, start to learn about that and how to, yeah, absolutely. It's all about, and I think this is one of my favorite words in business, in life, is consistency. I can guarantee you that whenever you were having success in your life, whether it was in your business, your relationships, your health, your wealth, all of that stuff, I can guarantee you that you were being consistent in one way or another. Just being consistent with it, you know, day in, day out, you do the, so, you know, if it's your health, you do the things that are required to take care of your health. So maybe you're exercising consistently, you're eating a little better, more consistently. You know, when you were learning anything new, you know, when you were at school, potentially, you were having success because you were consistent with your learning and how you were doing that. In your business, you're consistent with the, you know, the daily tasks that are required to be done, without a doubt. And when it comes to mindset, you're consistent with that. For the last 20 years, approximately, mindset has been a part of my life in one way or another every single day. I make it a point every day. That's the way I start my day. I start my day with a bit of appreciation. Hey, man, I'm really thankful for the bed I could sleep on last night. That pillow was, so comfortable. Oh, look at that. I have water available to me. I can drink water. And you line up with that appreciation. Doing it first thing in the morning sets the tone for the day, so that you can receive more things to be appreciative of. It's that simple, yet it's a daily thing. It's consistent. A bit of learning today, a bit of learning tomorrow, a little more tomorrow. I learned a little more. I listened to a podcast today. I read something. I highlighted something that I thought was significant. I paid a little more attention to being present with my significant, with my partner, or whoever that is, or with my children. You know, how many entrepreneurs go home potentially to their family and to their children, and they're still at work and not taking in that moment to be just super present with their children, for instance. And I can understand how that can happen. I truly can understand how that can happen, without a doubt. First one, I know in the past I did that. Yet, you know what? At the end of the day, it really boils down to this. A really easy question, yet it requires some time and potentially some thinking, is ultimately, what do you want? What do you want? And look at it and say, yeah, you know what? This is what I want. This is what I want for my business. This is what I want for my relationships. This is what I want for my health. This is what I want for my wealth. And looking at it, and then starting to look into, your values. People will say, why do entrepreneurs go into business in the first place? For the most part, I'd say freedom.
Well, perceived freedom, because most entrepreneurs go into business for themselves, right? Thinking that they're going to have work-life balance and all this bullshit.
But for freedom.
And then what happens, right? Yeah, for freedom. But then what happens is they become the worst boss that they could ever have imagined having.
Yeah. Well, what they do is they're no longer aligned with their values. Because if you said you wanted freedom, time-wise, and financial freedom and all of those things. So if you said you thought you were going to have more time for yourself, but you're working way more than you've ever worked ever, and consistent. I'm not saying that because there are pockets that come and you say, this week I really need to put in this, and that's fine. Because, this work-life balance, people think it needs to be, an equal percentage all around all the time. It's not. It shifts. There are times when you're going to be 80% involved in your business. I get that. Yet you need to recognize that, then am I doing this at the detriment of my health? Am I doing this at the detriment of my relationships? Now, is this truly aligned with my values still? Because it's very easy to say, family comes first, for instance. Just an example. But are you living that?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can say, no, my health is really important. Health is so important. Are you living that? And you can take anything. You can take kindness. You can take honesty. We're in the business world, honesty, again, if that's a really important value to you, I can guarantee you in the business world, at some point in time, you are going to be tempted potentially with stuff that comes up. But if you're really strong with your values, if you've actually taken the time to look at your values, the minute something comes up like that, you just say, no, this isn't for me.
Yeah. And it's not just about asking yourself the question. It's about, you've got to write it down. I mean, where I turned the corner in the last few days is it's so funny that you're talking about this right now, because I sat down with my wife and I said, I've kind of gone from a space of being, just everything just seemed to be going so well last year to this year. I don't know what the hell's happened. And she turned around and she said, well, what do you want? What is it that you want? I mean, it was partly out of exasperation. Like what the F do you want, dude?
But it's
but I took a sheet of paper, Ken.
Yeah.
And I took a pen and I just kind of put all the categories, like what do I want, in business, what do I want? What I want in business, I'll share this with you lot listening, is I want to be spending the majority of my time with my favorite customers or my favorite types of people to look after. I don't really want to be doing much else outside of that. So then my wife said, okay, fine, write that down. That is the only thing that you're going to focus on. And then what we're going to focus on together is that everything else outside of that still needs to be done, but we're going to see how we can put the support systems in place.
Absolutely.
To protect you from having to deal with it.
You have to do it.
Then we've now started the process of going through every other area of our lives: health, family, finances, fitness, etc., etc. And writing it down is the most powerful thing. Just asking yourself the question and having a daydream about it now is just not going to get you anywhere. You're still going to be in exactly the same hole. 12.
Absolutely. You have to, you definitely have to. That's why it requires, that's why I said it's a very simple question. It requires some time and being with it and writing down, like you're saying, and saying, okay, so this is what I want. And this is really important. What you're mentioning as well is very, very important, because this is about designing your life and then intertwining your business in the way you want your life designed. Whereas so many entrepreneurs do it the other way around. Their life is being designed and being intertwined into their business is creating that it's all around the business. Right? So you have to make a decision and design. So you say this, I want to spend a significant amount of my time with my favorite customers. Well, how much time is that? Is that 5 hours a week? Is that 10 hours a week? Make a decision on how much income you want to earn. And how many hours would you like to earn that? How many hours a week do you want to be working? And again, so this is why, again, the mindset comes into it and limiting beliefs come into it, is that many think that, time versus money. Yet when you're tapping into something much higher self, your umami self, when you're tapping into that all changes. because stuff starts to come out of nowhere where you go, oh, wow, where did that come from? And you're creating, look at the people who are earning, like, for instance, very big amounts of money. Are they actually spending more time? No, they've just figured out a way to do it.
Yeah.
Right? So you start to design your name, and it's about making decisions. It's about making decisions, making choices, and saying, you know what? I want to, many years ago, I had done this as well. I had another business as well. Similar, very similar with you, Roberto, in the sense that pre-COVID, I had another business which was predominant for me, and then made some shifts in that. But I had made the decision in that business. I said, you know what? I want to start earning the income that I say I want to earn between February and November. Why? Because I really want to enjoy December. I like that time of the year. I want to enjoy December. I want to enjoy the Christmas period. I want to enjoy being able to go and maybe buy some gifts and stuff like that at leisure, not, all this rushing around. And then January, I like January as a planning month where I'm planning the rest of the year. So I said, I want to create the income that I want to create in 10 months. Now, does it mean I'm going to do no work in December? Doesn't mean that. Does it mean I'm going to do no work in January? Doesn't mean that. But I just looked at it as, okay, that's going to be bonus. And I just made that decision. By making that decision, I'm setting out that intention, and I started to create it, and it started to work. And I was like, cool, this is cool. And you can do the same thing. You might say you have your own business and you say, you know what? I want to be able to earn a certain amount of income, and I want to be working a 20-hour week. I don't know. I want to be working a 15-hour week. I don't know. It's up to you. It's totally up to you. Some people might be listening and going, that's how I don't think so. That's just limiting. You have the choice. You can decide whatever you want. And this is where you start to learn, and you start to say, okay, and this is the designing. And it's so, so important to design your life the way you want it. And then intertwine your business in it.
Yeah.
It's amazing stuff.
No, absolutely. I'm so glad that we really got into that, because hopefully it's given everybody listening a real flavor for how you work with people and your approach and so on as well. So speaking of that, anyone who's listening that wants to explore working with Ken, connecting with Ken, you need to go to, I'll put this in the show notes as well, but you need to head to adaptandpivotnow.com. And then you're also working on something that you're hoping to introduce I guess it's in the next kind of few months or so, but you're working on a 3-part program called the Mindset Choice, Ken?
That's correct, you are. So the adaptandpivotnow.com, that's simply, for any listeners here, that's a free masterclass. And it's about some secrets about what's stopping you from adapting and pivoting right now. So that they can just get that, and they can get that completely free. You're absolutely right. I'm working on a program right now called the Mindset Choice, the choice that changes everything. And that's going to be it's going to be a free program. Yet anybody who wants to come into that program, I have to have a conversation with them first. Because I've seen, and again, it really ties in nicely with what we're talking about, underrated and underestimated. I've seen people pay for programs and do nothing. I'll be honest with you. I'm not interested in working with people who don't want to do anything, don't want to help themselves, right? So I love working with, my interest is to work with people long-term as much as possible. I call them client family members, because they do become my client family. I would like to work with people long-term, because that's how you grow. I know that's how you're going to grow, without a doubt. So what I've done, what I'm putting together, and I'm really truly, I want it to be ready in the next couple of weeks. I'm pretty sure it's going to be. It's all laid out. It's just a matter of some recordings. It's giving you a really good idea of what the Mindset Choice is all about, why it's so significant. We've dabbled into a few things here, and it's a somewhat of a short program, so that yet, like I said, I have to have a conversation with someone first to make sure it's a match and that they're ready to commit to it. It's not a huge commitment, but I'm going to give people a very specific time frame. They can decide whenever they want to start. So I give it that personal touch. They're going to be able to even engage with me. I've figured out a way to do it so they can engage. So I know they're engaging in the program, even though they're going to be getting recorded videos. And that way, from that engagement, then potentially they'll have some bonus videos. And I can see the engagement. Once I see that, and they get into that mindset choice, and they start to understand in that, and then from there we'll see whether or not, I'll extend my hand if someone wants to. Yet they might have gotten enough and said, you know what, this is good for me, and I'm good here. And if they want to dabble in more, then they can as well. Another way, if I may mention, if someone would like to just simply send me an email, they can do that as well. They can send me an email at ken@mindsetmalta.com. Very simple.
Right.
ken@mindsetmalta.com.
Mindsetmalta.com. Perfect.
If someone wants to send me an email, ask a question, I will definitely get back to them, and I can give them some other ideas of how they can integrate with Mindset Malta as well, whether it's through Facebook, Instagram, whatever it may be as well.
That's wonderful. Ken, thank you so much. Have you had fun today?
Absolutely. I love it. This is what I love doing. This is what I love doing. We could talk for another hour, I can guarantee you. And we haven't even touched on some stuff that we said we might touch on.
We're going to have to do this again.
Absolutely. Whenever you'd like, it'd be my absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Yeah, let's get that on the books as well. And Ken, will you please, we'll keep in touch anyway, but will you please let me know when your 3-part program is ready to go? And then I can make sure that, I make sure that I tell everybody about that as well and give them all the relevant information.
Awesome. That would be fantastic. I really appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Pretty soon.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ken. Thank you all so much for joining Ken and I on this episode. Don't forget, Tailoring Talk is on Instagram at Tailoring Talk Podcast, and you can email me at tailoringtalkpodcast@gmail.com. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review, and you can also click the share button in your player to send this episode on to someone you know who might get some help or be inspired by what Ken and I discussed today. If you're enjoying Tailoring Talk and want to support the show, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Roberto Revilla. Have a great week, be good to each other, and I'll see you on the next one.